All right, all right. So let's get rocking and rolling. So good morning, everyone. Happy Saturday, and thank you all for joining. Um, this is probably one of many ranked choice voting events that I know the DC Board of Elections is doing and kind of getting folks set up with. Since this is a new voting style that is new to our area, I just want to make sure people are in the know on kind of what to do, how it operates, and kind of ask any lingering questions that you all may have. My name is Char McCray. I am ANC Commissioner for 5D06, Trinidad Carver Langston, and I'm kind of the cut across in between Bladensburg Road and 17th Street. So this is one of many ways that in ANC 5D we plan to kind of educate neighbors. I know we have a small but mighty group this morning, so ask away, ask all the questions that you have. We will be posting this to our YouTube, likely to Facebook as well, in different platforms, just so that we can keep spreading the word to let folks know what to expect for kind of the upcoming primaries and further upcoming elections. So without further ado, I will hand the virtual mic over to the DC Board of Elections to take it away from here.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Commissioner McCray, for inviting me here today to speak a little bit more about ranked choice voting and how DC will specifically be implementing that. I really do appreciate your enthusiasm in hosting this call for your neighbors. And I'm happy to be here representing the board to tell you a little bit more about, what ranked choice voting is to ensure that our residents are going into the 2026 primary election in the know and feeling confident. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen. Um, Please let me know if you can't see my screen. Can you all see it? Perfect. Okay.
And yes, we can see it.
Thank you. Alrighty. So before we even talk about what ranked choice voting is, I want to talk about, how we got here, why we got here, if you will. And so the reason we got here is because in the 2024 general election, DC residents voted for Initiative 83, which part of Initiative 83 was to implement ranked choice voting in DC elections. That measure was overwhelmingly supported by DC residents, and then the DC Council actually decided to support and fund that part of the initiative, if you will, starting in the 2026 budget, with the rollout beginning in the June 2026 primary election. And so we as the board have been tasked to implement based on, what voters decided on, and then based on what the DC Council funded us for. So in terms of, how we got here, so in terms of the regulations and everything like that, with the passing of Initiative 83, it'll include all elections, starting with like the president and vice president of the United States, all the way down to the Advisory Neighborhood Commission. So as you can see, majority of the contests will be eligible for ranked choice voting. And the only caveat is as long as there are three or more candidates in a specific contest, ranked choice voting will apply in DC elections. The only exception to these are the state party elections. So those will not be subject to ranked choice voting, but every other contest that you see on this slide below will be subject to ranked choice voting so long as there are three candidates running for each contest. And so now let's go into the bigger picture and dive into what exactly is ranked choice voting and how it will work. So ranked choice voting, as the name suggests, you're ranking the candidates in order of your preference. And so I do want to preface by saying, there are many models of ranked choice voting. Different states, different jurisdictions, counties, cities can choose to implement ranked choice voting in their own way. The way that DC is adapting it is based on the regulations that were written with the proponents of Initiative 83. So we as the board do not control that. We are just tasked with implementing that based on what the legislation says, and we just follow suit. So, in terms of that, as stated, ranked choice voting will apply for every single election, with the exception of the state party contests, if you will. And the idea is you're ranking your candidates within one contest in order of preference. So for DC, you can rank up to 5 candidates. In some places, it might be less, it might be more. And the idea is to be able to reach plurality or majority of the votes, sorry, meaning 50% or plus one of the votes for a candidate in order for them to be declared a winner. And to my right here, you'll see a photo of a sample ballot. So this is not the exact finalized version of the ballot come June 2026, but this is like a close replica of it. This is just like a template. As you can see, there will be detailed instructions up top in terms of how to properly fill out the ballot. And then you'll see the contests and the place for you to denote your ranking. So there's first choice, second choice, third choice, fourth choice, and fifth choice for each contest as listed below. And then, so as mentioned, if a candidate does not receive over 50% of the votes within one contest, that's when the tabulation process actually begins. And this is when ranking candidates that will come into use. So the idea is the person with the least amount of votes gets eliminated. And then the people that voted for that candidate, their votes will now get redistributed to their next choice or their second choice candidate. And we keep doing that until there's one candidate that clears that 50% threshold. And so each round is based upon the clearing of the votes. And you keep going until you find a person that has reached that 50% plus one candidate. And so the idea is your vote stays with one person, with one candidate at a given time. But if we are able to go into subsequent rounds, that's when, depending on your rankings, if that person that you voted for, that candidate is eliminated, then your vote will transfer over to the next candidate. So in terms of how to properly mark your ballot, so as per usual, filling in one oval per column. And as stated before, you can rank up to 5 candidates. As given here, you have your first choice all the way down through your fifth choice. And I do want to preface by saying ranking your candidates does not harm your first choice at all. It can only just ensure that your votes continues to get counted should the person that you first select, the candidate that you first select, gets eliminated. Voters are not required to rank candidates, but we do encourage you to exercise your full right to vote. And so, as stated, feel free to rank at your discretion. And so, as mentioned here, ensuring that you select one candidate per row to ensure that you don't give the same person or multiple people the same ranking as done here. And now we're going to talk a little bit about some mistakes to avoid and kind of how your ballot might be deemed inactive. So the first one being giving one candidate multiple rankings. This does not help your candidate in any way because you selected that first candidate, your vote will stay with them. But if that candidate gets eliminated, then that's it. Your vote will not get transferred to your next choice because your next choice was also that same candidate who's no longer in the running for this contest. So as you can see, this person selected Donald Duck as their first, second, and third choice. It will be inactive come the second and third choice ballot. And so the next mistake is giving multiple candidates the same ranking. This is also a mistake because we do not know voter intent and we're not able to decipher which candidate was actually the voter's preferred second choice candidate. So this will also deem your contest inactive. So not the entire ballot, but specifically in this case, the contest is for the mayor of the District of Columbia. So up when it gets to that second choice, if we do go to a second round in terms of tabulation, um, this voter this voter's vote will just stay with Beyonce, their first choice. And their second choice, because they selected two people, their contest or this contest is deemed inactive.
And if I could just add in, if folks have questions, because I know this can be quite tricky, feel free to hop off of mute and ask those questions. I do have a question for you. So I know this is like I've seen the paper ballot so far, but I know we typically vote on the computers and the machines. So with these mistakes to avoid, at what point would someone know if they made a mistake? Like, how is that going to show up? Like, what can voters expect to see if a mistake is made? When will they be notified of that?
Sure, that's a great question. And yes, in terms of asking questions throughout my presentation, please feel free to do so. Because I am screen sharing, I'm unable to see the chat. But if you do see any question in the chat, then feel free to just come off mute yourself, Commissioner McCray, and I'm happy to address them as we go along. I know that this is a lot of information all at once, and so I want to make sure that, those that are on the call had the understanding that they need to be able to, feel confident about this voting system. So in terms of knowing like when you've made a mistake, there isn't in terms of like paper ballot versus electronic ballot. So with the paper ballot, we will have detailed instructions on how to properly complete the ballot. We're currently in the process of finalizing the language for what will actually appear and on our ballots in June for the primary election. But there really is no other way in terms of like those that are filling out paper ballots, but the instructions will have detailed examples similar to, let me go back, kind of what to do and what not to do as shown here. Bear with me. I'm going to go back to the sample ballot for those that are visual learners. Okay, so I think it's going forward. Okay, perfect. So yes, as you can see here in terms of how to properly fill out ballots, so there will be something similar to this, but obviously with more detail in terms of like the choices, the first through fifth choice, and so on and so forth. So there will be plenty of visuals with clear to understand directions. As for the electronic voting equipment, so that's the same way. There will not be any notification or system flagging that says, oh, you've given, one candidate multiple rankings, or you've given the same ranking to multiple candidates. Instead, what will happen is at the end, once a person has completed their ballot, they have the option to review their selections for each contest. And so the voter has that opportunity to be able to go back and ensure that, they've selected the accurate person for a contest. And so you're able to kind of go back and make a change in that selection if something was done in error or you didn't catch that. You didn't rank all five candidates if there are, five or more candidates for that contest. And so to even out that playing field, that's what we do. And, we always encourage folks to give their ballot like a look through and ensure that, their votes are captured in the way that they want it to, because we understand, especially with the new voting system, that there might be some mistakes or anything like that.
No, thank you for that. And we do have a question in the chat. If
Sure.
someone makes a mistake, what can they do? Like if a mistake is made, which I'm sure you guys have some type of process in place for that. If a mistake is made on I guess the paper ballot, how do they fix it? And if a mistake is made on the computer kind of ballot, how do they fix it?
Sure, that's a great question. We're all human, so we understand that we do make mistakes, especially with something as new as this. And that is kind of the same prior to other elections as well. And this won't be special to specifically ranked choice voting, but we do allow voters the option to obtain another ballot in order to make their correct selection if they do make a mistake. What will happen now instead is they'll get what's called like a special ballot or a provisional ballot, and so that they're able to vote because that first ballot will now get tossed. And to ensure that, their vote does get counted, we want to ensure that everyone that's, coming to vote actually has the ability to vote and recognize that. And so, you will not be penalized for your mistakes so long as you come to one of the voting clerks, the ballot clerks, or the registration clerk, the ballot clerk, sorry, they'll be able to give you another ballot so that you're still able to vote and you won't be penalized for your mistakes. As for the voting equipment, because you have the ability to kind of review your selections prior to pressing submit, sometimes that might stop the mistake and voters are able to go back. But if upon receiving the ballot, once the machine feeds it out and a mistake is made, it'll be the same process as just notifying a ballot clerk, and then you're able to get a new ballot so that you're able to vote.
No, that sounds good. So basically, if a mistake is made, they need to go to the clerk or speak to someone at the polling station. And do they have to specifically request the provisional ballot, or the clerk will be able to assist them once a mistake is if a mistake is made?
Yes, great question. So
Okay,
yes, they should know that the next step will be a provisional or a special ballot, if you will. So the voter does
okay.
not need to specifically state that. All the election workers, trainers receive extensive training, so they know how to handle situations like this. And that's definitely one of the talking points as well.
Okay. And then just a follow up to that, a question in the chat. Will it be widely known that voters can get another ballot if there is a mistake?
Um, that's a good question. I mean, I'm honestly not sure. I can't speak for everyone, but I do know that, that's happened in the past as well. This isn't something new specific to ranked choice voting. And so, I would hope so. I can't really say that, I can't confirm that or deny that for a fact, but there have been times I've worked at, a vote center where a voter has made a mistake and we've given them that. And as long as like voters are able to share that, that shouldn't be an issue.
Gotcha. And I'll add in kind of a similar thing just from being in the voting space. Like in almost, I think every state you can request some type of special or provisional ballot. And just to answer the question in the chat, someone asked what this questioning was. This is the first question was, if someone makes a mistake, what can they do? And will this be widely known that if you make a mistake, you can request a provisional or special ballot? So that was kind of what that exchange was about. I guess this is another follow-on to that. Is this the same for mail-in ballots? I guess that is a whole different battle of ball game. Hold tight. I'm going to I'll go kind of in the order of the questions right now. So is this kind of mistake scenario the same for mail-in ballots? And then there's another question.
Sure. With mail-in ballots, once it's, submitted in terms of like correcting a mistake right then and there, it's, a bit difficult. I'm honestly not sure. I haven't had that happen where somebody has made a mistake with a mail-in ballot, but I don't see why not. I don't want to, misspeak, but a lot of people do come into the vote centers to turn in their mail ballots as well as drop it at the post office or even the mail ballot drop boxes that we'll have across the city. Um, so that's what I'll say on that. I'm honestly quite not sure, but I don't see why it wouldn't. I feel like voters should have the same access regardless, and they can come in because if anything happens, I can say though, there have been times where somebody will vote, via mail-in ballot and they'll come into a vote center, and so we'll give them a special ballot because we don't turn any voters away. And then once we come back and we're processing the votes, and that's when we cross-check and to ensure that, only one ballot gets counted per voter. And so they're able to come in, we'll just notify the person, our system indicates that you voted and we still provide them that provisional ballot. And so this can work in that same way, actually. So we don't turn any voters down. We're DC's very voter friendly city, and we want to ensure that those that want to come in and vote have the ability to do so. And then we on the back end will work to ensure and see, if this special provisional ballot will be counted based on that correspondence that we have after the voting period.
Okay, no, that sounds good. And I'm about to unmute one person that has a question. Kay Garcia, you are
Oh,
unmuted now.
good afternoon. So this is Carla Garcia. I'm actually with the DC Board of Elections. So I just wanted to say something. If you walk into a polling location and you make a mistake in your ballot, it's like any other time when we make a mistake at a polling location and you realize that you've made a mistake, that ballot will be spoiled and you will be reissue a new ballot. So when you come to a polling location, you're filling out your ballot and you realize that you've made a mistake, you just let one of the poll workers know that you made a mistake and they will tear that ballot in front of you. They will spoil it and then they will reissue a new ballot. Now, for the mail, if you think you've made a mistake in the mail, that's something completely different because when you mail your ballot in, all we have is your signature to match. You might not have made a mistake on all the contests, and only the contest where you made a mistake, that vote might not count, but not that whole ballot itself. So I'm not sure if that clarifies that question. But for those that have questions, I think if you receive your ballot in the mail, just come into a vote center and we can assist you with voting your ballot. And we're not, that's not a problem at all. Once you have your ballot, just bring it in and someone can walk you through the process. Thank you.
Thank you, Carla, for that clarification in regards to mistakes and ballots. She's absolutely correct. I misspoke earlier in regards to the ballot being spoiled, and then you receive a new ballot right on the spot once that ballot clerk has spoiled your ballot. Were there any other questions or any points of clarification based on what me and my colleague just shared? Alrighty, okay. So now, this right here is a mistake to avoid as well, but this will not result in an inactive ballot if you skip one ranking. So in this case, this person skipped their second choice and went on to rank their third and fourth choice. So this doesn't necessarily make your ballot or your contest as inactive, but we do encourage voters to exercise their full right to vote. In terms of this, that's okay. But the problem begins when you have two consecutive skips. So the way that the legislation was written, voters are allowed one skip. But at the point of the second consecutive skip, as in the ballot here on the right, that's when that contest becomes inactive. So it's not inactive on the first example here on the left, but because of the second consecutive skip here, the person did not select their first and second choice candidate. This does mark this contest as invalid because the person just went on to rank their third choice candidate. And now we'll talk about the tabulation and kind of how like the votes get counted. So here, the first choices, as you can see, not one candidate has cleared that 50% threshold. So we're going to go into a second round of tabulation. And because candidate C has the fewest number of votes, candidate C's votes actually get distributed to their next choice or their second choice candidate. So in this case, if you'll follow along, it gets transferred over to the remaining candidates, and so on and so forth. With the second round, there's still not a candidate that's cleared that 50% threshold. So we go into a third round in which where candidate D, which at this in this round has the fewest number of votes, their votes now get transferred to the voter's next choice or next selection. And by the third round, we have candidates A and B left. And as you can see, candidate B actually has crossed that 50% threshold. And so it reaches majority. And in this case, it's candidate B that's declared a winner. And now, in terms of, what to expect, we do want to level set expectations because ranked choice voting, especially in this upcoming primary election, there are lots of contests as well as, there might be a lot of candidates. We do want to preface that it might take a bit longer for you to mark your ballot. But we do want to reassure, DC residents that there will be guidance and support at vote centers when completing your ballot. So the site coordinators on site will have substantive training to be able to assist voters as they come into vote centers as well. And as mentioned earlier, the mail ballot packets will also include guidance on ranked choice voting with visuals in terms of, results, which a lot of people also want to know about. It'll look a bit different from previous elections, but what will remain the same is that preliminary results will still be released on election night in terms of like results and when we'll certify the election. That's still to be determined as we're still working on the results reporting schedule. But our results as normal will be available on the DCBOE website. And also, as we're doing, various rounds of tabulation, those rounds of tabulation results will also be released and updated periodically on our website. It's a bit difficult to gauge right now in terms of when we'll be able to release official results because we do have the ability to accept ballots up to 10 days after Election Day, so long as they're postmarked by Election Day. And so we're currently working on the regulation to get more clear guidance on that. And then, of course, we'll make that available to the public and ensure that the public has accurate information in regards to when they can expect results and so on and so forth. And, besides speaking engagements such as these and coordinating ranked choice voting workshops and presentations, we do have a plethora of other resources to engage DC voters and residents. So we do have a ranked choice voting page on our website, which if you'll just go to www.dcboe.org/RCV, you'll be able to see our resources. We at our headquarters in 1015 Half Street Southeast also have a resource lab where the members of the public can come in and actually get to practice using voting equipment, voting with ranked choice voting as well. We'll have a member of our staff guide voters in and, in terms of like show them how to interact with the equipment and so on and so forth. We also have FAQs. These can also be found on our DCBOE Ranked Choice Voting webpage. We have Ranked Choice Voting informational palm cards, which have actually started circulating the mail. So I'm sure you all will begin to receive those if you haven't already received those. And we plan on sending out at least 2 more mailers between now and the primary election to ensure that voters are very well informed and aware of ranked choice voting, as well as, the in-person and virtual speaking engagements that we do. In terms of what to look forward, what's coming up on the horizon, we're currently working on an election tabulation simulator tool so that residents, are able to see the process of that, as well as a ranked choice voting explanation video, a voter guide, and more mailers, as mentioned earlier, on the voting system. So if you do, this is our contact information. dcboe.org is our website. We also have a specific email dedicated to ranked choice voting questions, which is listed. And if you'd like a member of the Voter Education and Outreach Division team to coordinate any ranked choice voting presentations or workshops, our email is also listed below to be able to reach out so that we can schedule something. Thank you all.
And we do have a few, well, there's a comment and a question, and then I'm not quite sure what else is in the chat right now, but so I know we do have a comment. If you're a senior, you might not be able to go to a vote center. Can you speak a little bit to kind of how you guys are engaging with seniors and kind of getting them in the know on kind of what I know you go into senior centers, but are there different other ways that you all are engaging with seniors?
Sure, yes. We do ensure to engage with seniors, so we're going into senior wellness centers, senior residences, nursing homes, and we actually also offer ballot collection and assistance to a lot of these nursing homes. So members of our staff will head to a specific facility and help voters, seniors, be able to cast their ballots, and we collect it from them on site so that they're able to vote. And we recognize that, getting to the polls might pose specific challenges for different populations of groups, and we want to ensure that that's not a barrier for them exercising their right to vote and just share their voice. So we do a lot of partnerships with, senior wellness centers as well as nursing homes who regularly visit, and will sometimes conduct multiple visits to the same site, depending on how large the facility is, to ensure that we capture all of those that are interested in voting.
No, that's good. That's good. Thank you for that. And we do have a question. Can I rank only the candidate I want and skip the others on the list?
Yes, so that is an option. We ex want we at the board encourage folks to exercise their full right to vote. But if you choose to just select one candidate, that's up to the voter's discretion. Um, we leave it at that.
Okay, no, that sounds good. And could you go back and quickly review the tabulation example again?
Sure, let me go right back to that. Okay. So the tabulation, these are the candidates and their respective votes on during the first round of voting. Because not one candidate has cleared that 50% threshold, we then we then go into round two to see if, a candidate clears the threshold then. Since candidate C has the fewest number of votes, the votes from candidate C, the voters their next choice. So the voters' vote goes to their next choice candidate. So in this case, candidate C is eliminated and their ballots are transferred to the voters' next choice. And there's still not a person or a candidate that clears that 50% threshold. So we go into a round three in which candidate D, since they've received the fewest number of votes, their voters' votes are transferred to their next choice candidate. And once we get to round three, we see that candidate B actually has cleared that 50% threshold. So in this case, candidate B would be declared the winner. And this is done for every single contest that ranked choice voting applies to.
And we do have a question in the chat. What if the person you want to vote for is number 4 or the last? Would that category be invalid because of more than one skip? And just to ask, is this, Sabrina, is this referring to the mistakes to avoid or this tabulation process? Okay, this is in reference to the tabulation process.
Okay. So I think based off my understanding of the question, so if a voter does skip like a ranking, what will happen so long as it's not two consecutive skips, um, the voter's next ranked candidate will actually that's where the voters tr vote will be transferred to. So say for example, in round one, one voter selected candidate C as their first choice, but then they didn't select anybody for their second choice, but they selected candidate B for their third choice. So because candidate C had received the fewest number of votes, candidate C gets eliminated. And the votes that were cast for candidate C are then distributed to their second or their next choice. So that voter did not select a second choice candidate, but they did select their third choice. So what happens is it moves down. Their third choice then just becomes their second choice, if you will. And so that voters vote will get transferred from candidate C to candidate B, since that was like their next ranked candidate, if that makes sense. And that'll be accurate so long as there's no two consecutive skips, because in that case, the ballot is marked inactive and the voters' vote will stay with that first ranked candidate or the candidate before that two consecutive skips.
And then there's two more questions in the chat about tabulation. One is why did candidate B get the most votes from D? And then why would B get more from C than A? And just from the kind of, can we put the tabulation tab back
Sure,
up
yeah,
too?
I think I'll just keep that
And
up for folks.
and I guess just to add, if and I guess just kind of how do those so round one, like how did the votes move, I guess is more of the question here. Just to kind of understand, because C had the least, they get removed. After C gets removed, you're only looking at the C ballots and their round two choices, right? At that point, once round two happens. So once the everyone that voted for candidate C in round one, they're now null and void. So we look at the folks that voted in round one for C, and we move to their kind of round two folks. But A, B, and D candidates, we're still looking at their round one, right?
Correct.
If
So,
that makes sense.
yes, and so until that candidate is eliminated, that'll be the case. So it's just in terms of, answering the question, why did certain candidate get more votes from another candidate? That's just based on the selections of that voter. So in this case, as you can see, a lot of candidates from C, it was kind of evenly distributed, but when you go from round two to round three, a lot of those that selected D as their second choice ended up selecting B as their third choice. And that's not specifically like for the regulation, that's just how the voters decided to vote. So it's solely based on what voters select on their ballots and not because a specific number of votes have to go to one candidate versus the other. It's just how they rank their preferences. So a lot of, voters might rank the same candidate as like their second or their third choice, and then you'll see that reflected in the actual tabulation as well, if that provides a bit more clarification to that person.
I'm not seeing any follow-ups right now. I do have one question.
Sure.
I know that we're there. I think we're only voting for maybe one at-large seat this go round, but is there any thoughts on how ranked choice voting will work when we have to choose two people per column?
Yes, so for this primary election, we're only selecting one at-large candidate. In terms of for the November or the general election where we'll be selecting two candidates, we have not started working on those regulations yet. We just want to focus on right now as a board, our priority is just to inform voters about ranked choice voting. And then we'll get to that once the primary has subdued, just to avoid further confusion for this one, especially since this will be our initial time with ranked choice voting.
Gotcha.
But rest assured, there will be a lot more guidance going into that general election to ensure that, voters have accurate information in terms of how ranked choice voting will work then.
No, that sounds good. And we have a question in the chat. Can you go back to the mistake skip slide? The follow-on to that is I'm not sure I understand if number 4 or number 5 is the only selection, why it would be disqualified.
Okay,
And
number 4.
would you be able, Sabrina, to speak to which slide, just to make sure we're at the right slide, for the mistake slide? Is it this first one right here?
And then this is the second one. If they're mentioning, I think they said the fourth one, so let me so this would be the fourth one, that second consecutive skip. I can talk about that while, the person has a chance to respond and see if this is actually what they were referring to. So in terms of why the second consecutive skip is what deems the contest inactive, is because that's what's written in the regulations. And so we at the board are just in charge of implementing it. We don't actually set, the rules. We're charged with implementing it and ensuring that we adhere to those rules. So that's how the proponents, when submitting the legislation for ranked choice voting, that's how they decided to carry it out. So you're allowed one skip, but at the time of the second consecutive skip, that's when that specific contest becomes inactive.
All right, that answered that one. And we have another question in regards to tabulation.
Sure.
For clarification, from round 2 to round 3, once candidate C is eliminated and their votes are removed to candidate D, are we going by candidate C's third ranking?
No, so we're not going by candidate C's third ranking. We're going based off the voters that selected C as their first choice. We're going based on their second and their third ranking. So it has nothing to do with the candidates at this point. It's whoever the voter selected as their second or third choice. And the reason that we say next choice is because we recognize sometimes that voters might, skip their second or third candidate. They might skip in between. And so to avoid like confusion on that end, we'll just say their next ranked candidate. So it's all based on voters and their selection, their rankings. I hope that provided clarification to the person. If not, please feel free to ask any more clarifying questions and I'll be happy to explain it.
No, that looks like it was good. And I guess just kind of leaving it open for a second just to see if folks have any kind of last saved rounds or any last questions. I would like to say, like, thank you all for joining. Super appreciative to the Board of Elections for coming out and kind of sharing this so that we can share with the community. And I will say, I know folks had questions today, so we know neighbors are going to have questions. Everything that folks asked today, people are going to ask going forward. So please, please, please just start talking to your neighbors about it. I think the more we mention this and the more it is spoken about, the more we can continually spread the word, let folks know, and maybe we can do something in person, kind of closer to maybe the primary getting here in June. But please, I urge everyone to consistently and often talk about the changes so that folks know what to expect in June, so people aren't there and they don't feel prepared. We want everyone to feel prepared as they are walking into Election Day. I think that is the most important part. And I thank you all for joining, and super, super, super big shout out to DC Board of Elections for coming out here and just kind of giving this backdrop to kind of what will be out there. And I do see one question, will you host another Zoom? We can definitely host another Zoom, and we can coordinate that with DC Board of Elections. We can possibly do something in person as well if folks want to actually, like, because I believe you guys can bring out the actual voting systems, and you can kind of like do the selection as you would in kind of real time. With obviously it would be like a sample ballot. It wouldn't be the real election, but we can do more just so that we're making sure that every neighbor knows what to expect going forward. So if folks are definitely interested, we will do that. I want to make sure we're talking early and often about this so that as many people can be prepared as possible.
Yes, we can certainly do, more presentations such as this. I think in person would be great, and that way that'll give members of, the 5D ANC community to be able to experience and get, some time with the voting equipment. And thank you again so much for inviting us out. And I do want to, just emphasize your point about talking about it with our neighbors, with our friends. The best way is like through word of mouth, honestly, because that'll make sure that it actually sticks with residents if they're hearing it and talking about it from, their family members, their friends. It's going to stick more that way, and there's more touch points that way as well. But we at the board are, doing the absolute best and to ensure that we're partnering with, ANCs as well as schools, as well as lots of community organizations and nonprofits to ensure that we do meet voters where they're at. And so we appreciate partnerships like this that allow us to reach, great group of people and a good amount of people as well. And I'll just leave it at this slide here in terms of where you can find more resources. So as mentioned, our website, you can also go to dcboe.org/RCV. We have a specific email dedicated for ranked choice voting questions. So if after this you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to rcv@dcboe.org. And if you'd also like to, for the board to host a ranked choice voting presentation, or even have somebody from the board come and speak to you or any residents, please feel free to reach out to us at outreach@dcboe.org, and we'd be happy to facilitate that as well.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate this. This was super informative and super helpful. So super big thank you, because I know it's also Saturday. So And it's our first nice Saturday. So I really, really do appreciate you all. And I hope you all have a great rest of your Saturday. Some links are dropped in there. So if you guys have questions, feel free to copy those links. This presentation, we will put it on our ANC 5D platform. So it will be available on our YouTube channel, Facebook channel, and maybe we'll put out a series of clips on Instagram and social media as well. So stay tuned for that. And thank you all again, and have a good and happy Saturday.
Thank you again. And yes, as Commissioner McCray pointed out, I do have some resources that I've linked in the chat as well that take you to the direct webpage for ranked choice voting, as well as those emails and even our events calendar, which is also housed on our website. And this actually features all the outreach events that we'll be engaging and interacting in throughout the city. And so if folks are interested in, kind of seeing where we are and what we're doing, that events calendar is a great place for you to see that as well, and be able to join in on some of those events that way as well.
All right. Thank you all again, and have a happy Saturday.
Likewise, thank you.